It is 2 in the morning and you hear it before you are even fully awake. That specific sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Pause. Scratch, 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 pause. Your cat is awake, your cat is uncomfortable, and you are lying there in the dark feeling completely helpless because you already know what tomorrow looks like. Another vet visit. Another bottle of medication that costs $60, $80, sometimes over $100. A steroid shot that calms things down for 2 weeks, and then the scratching comes right back exactly where it left off. I know exactly how exhausting that cycle is, and I know how much it hurts to watch an animal you love be uncomfortable in their own skin with no clear answer. What if I told you that 1 teaspoon of something already sitting in your kitchen or your refrigerator right now can stop that itching, repel the fleas and ticks that may be causing it, and start fixing the actual cause instead of just numbing the symptom for 2 weeks at a time? If you saw the thumbnail, you saw the promise. Today I am going to walk you through exactly how to use simple kitchen ingredients to calm your cat's itching immediately, build a natural barrier against fleas and ticks, and address the underlying issue that is making your cat such an attractive target for parasites and such a reactive mess on the skin in the first place. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Lauren Hale, and welcome to the channel. In my clinic, chronic skin issues in cats are one of the most common things I see, and one of the most frustrating for owners, because cats hide discomfort well until it has built up significantly, and by the time you notice the scratching, the hair loss, or the scabbing, the underlying issue has usually been developing for weeks. We are trained to reach for a steroid injection or an allergy pill that suppresses the immune response. Those things have a place, and I am not telling you to throw away medication your vet has prescribed. What I want to give you today is the layer underneath that, the root cause approach that, used consistently, reduces how often you need that prescription in the first place. One important note before we start: cats are not small dogs. Their liver processes things completely differently, and several ingredients that are perfectly safe for a dog are dangerous or even fatal for a cat. I am going to flag every single one of those moments clearly as we go, because this is the area where well-meaning pet owners most often get into trouble repurposing advice meant for dogs. Please listen closely to every warning I give you today. Let's start with step 1. Before we look at the underlying cause, we need to put out the fire. Your cat needs relief right now, tonight, not in 3 weeks once a deeper protocol has had time to work. If you look at your cat's skin and see a small, raw, red patch, often on the neck, the base of the tail, or behind the ears, what we call a hot spot or acute moist dermatitis, take a small amount of plain, organic, cold-pressed coconut oil, about a 1/4 teaspoon, and warm it slightly between your fingers until it becomes a thin liquid. Gently massage a very thin layer onto the affected area only, never the surrounding healthy fur, because too much oil on the coat itself causes matting and actually traps more moisture against the skin, which makes a hot spot worse rather than better. Coconut oil's lauric acid content gives it real antibacterial and antifungal properties, and a thin, targeted application cools the area, reduces surface bacteria, and creates a light protective layer. If your cat licks a small amount off, this is not dangerous. Coconut oil in tiny quantities is not toxic to cats, but you do want to discourage excessive licking of the area, because constant licking reintroduces bacteria from the mouth back onto the healing skin. If the problem is not one specific hotspot, but a more general full-body itchiness, with your cat rolling, scratching at their ears, or excessively grooming all over, a colloidal oatmeal rinse is your best full-body relief option. Take half a cup of plain, unflavored, unsweetened rolled oats. Grind them in a coffee grinder or food processor until they become a fine powder. This is colloidal oatmeal. Mix this powder into 2 cups of lukewarm water, never hot water, because heat draws blood to the skin surface and dramatically worsens inflammation and itching in an already irritated animal. Stir until the water looks milky. Using a soft cloth, gently sponge this oatmeal water over your cat's coat, focusing on the most affected areas, and let it sit for 5 minutes before rinsing with plain lukewarm water. I want to be honest with you about something here, because most cats tolerate a full bath very poorly, and the stress of forcing a full submersion bath can do more harm than the itching itself by spiking cortisol and worsening the inflammatory cycle. The sponge method, done calmly, in a small space, with a towel underneath to catch drips, gets you almost all of the benefit of an oatmeal bath with a fraction of the stress to your cat. Now, what if the itching is concentrated specifically around the ears, with a strong, unpleasant, slightly sweet or yeasty smell? This is one of the most common patterns I see, and most owners do not realize what they are smelling. That odor is very often malassezia, a yeast organism that thrives in the warm, moist environment of the ear canal, especially in cats with any degree of allergic skin disease underlying it. Here is where I need to give you a critical warning, because the most common natural remedy recommended for this in dogs is diluted apple cider vinegar applied to the ears, and in cats, this requires significantly more caution. A cat's ear canal is more sensitive and more easily irritated than a dog's, and full-strength or even moderately diluted vinegar can cause real pain and chemical irritation in a cat's ear that it will not in most dogs. If you choose to use vinegar at all for a yeast-smelling ear, it must be diluted to no stronger than 1 part apple cider vinegar to 4 parts water, applied with a cotton ball to the outer ear flap only, never drip down into the canal itself, and never used if there is any visible redness, swelling, discharge, or if your cat shows pain when you touch the ear. If any of those signs are present, this needs an in-person veterinary exam, because it may be a bacterial or mixed infection requiring prescription treatment, not a home remedy situation. Used appropriately, on intact, simply smelly external ear skin, this dilute rinse can help reduce the surface yeast population between vet visits. For a cat that is licking or chewing compulsively out of what looks more like anxiety or boredom than a specific itchy spot, and this is genuinely common in indoor cats, a small amount of safe enrichment redirection matters as much as any topical remedy. A frozen ice cube made from a small amount of plain, unsalted bone broth, or a puzzle feeder that makes them work for a portion of their regular food, redirects that compulsive oral behavior in a way that gives them a healthy outlet. This will not fix a genuine skin condition, but for a cat whose self-grooming has tipped into compulsive licking, it interrupts the cycle while you address the underlying cause. That's the fire put out for tonight. Now we move to step 2, building a natural shield against fleas and ticks, because in the majority of cases I see, ongoing low-grade flea exposure, sometimes too mild for the owner to ever see an actual flea, is a major driver of the chronic itching cycle in the first place. Traditional flea and tick preventatives that you put on the back of your cat's neck are genuinely effective, and I am not telling you to stop using a veterinary prescribed product if your cat has an active flea infestation, particularly because cats are far more sensitive to certain essential oils and over-the-counter treatments than dogs are, and an incorrectly dosed natural approach can be genuinely dangerous. I want to say that clearly before going further, because I am about to give you natural complementary strategies, not a replacement for an active flea infestation that needs to be treated properly. For general repellent support and prevention, in a cat that does not have an active infestation, brewer's yeast is one of the safer and more well-supported natural options. A very small amount, about 1/8 of a teaspoon for an average 10-pound cat, sprinkled over their food a few times a week, is absorbed into the body and secreted in tiny amounts through the skin and the natural oils of the coat. Fleas and ticks hunt largely by scent, and this subtle change in scent profile makes a cat a somewhat less attractive target. I want to be precise about the dose here because more is not better with brewer's yeast. In cats, excessive amounts can cause digestive upset, so stick to that small amount and never increase it without guidance from your own vet, especially if your cat has any kidney sensitivity, since yeast products are higher in certain compounds that need to be used carefully in cats with reduced kidney function. This is the moment where I need to give you the most important warning in this entire video. If you have read about using garlic or onion powder in a dog's food as a natural flea deterrent, please, under no circumstances, do this with a cat. Garlic and onion, in any form, including powder, are toxic to cats and can cause a serious, sometimes fatal form of anemia by damaging their red blood cells. Cats are significantly more sensitive to this toxicity than dogs are. This is not a dose question. There is no safe small amount. If you have seen this recommended anywhere for cats, please do not follow it. I am telling you this directly because this specific piece of dog advice circulating online has caused real, documented harm when applied to cats, and I never want that to happen to one of you watching this. For internal parasite support specifically, raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, ground into a fine powder, can be used in very small amounts, about 1/8 of a teaspoon for an average cat, sprinkled over food once or twice a week. The cucurbitin compound in pumpkin seeds has some natural anti-parasitic properties that may offer mild support against certain internal worms, though I want to be clear this is a supportive measure, not a replacement for a fecal exam and proper deworming protocol if your vet suspects your cat actually has worms. If you see worms in your cat's stool or significant weight loss with a good appetite, that needs an actual veterinary diagnosis, not a kitchen remedy alone. Now we move to step 3. And this is the part that actually changes the long-term pattern, rather than just managing flare-ups. Because most chronic itching in cats does not start on the skin. It starts in the gut. Many commercial dry cat foods are higher in carbohydrate content than a cat's body is naturally designed to process well, because cats are obligate carnivores, meaning their digestive system evolved specifically around a high-protein, low-carbohydrate diet from prey animals. When a cat eats a diet that is heavy in starches and fillers, this can disrupt the natural balance of bacteria in their gut over time. In some cats, contributing to a chronically activated immune response that shows up on the skin as itching, redness, and excessive grooming, even when no specific food allergy has been formally diagnosed. This is not true for every cat, and some cats do beautifully on a quality dry food their whole lives. But in cats with chronic, unexplained itching that has not responded to flea control and has not been diagnosed as an environmental allergy, gut health and diet composition is one of the most overlooked pieces of the puzzle. To support gut health, a very small amount of plain, unsweetened, unflavored kefir or plain yogurt, about half a teaspoon for an average cat, mixed into their regular food a few times a week, can help introduce beneficial bacteria. This is where I need another important warning specific to cats. Many adult cats are lactose intolerant to some degree, and dairy can cause loose stool or digestive upset even in small amounts in some individual cats. Start with an extremely small amount, less than what I just described, the first time you try this, and watch for any digestive upset over the following day before continuing. If your cat tolerates it well, you can use the amount described going forward. If you see loose stool, discontinue and do not continue trying to push through it. You must also check the label of any yogurt or kefir before giving it to your cat. The same critical warning that applies to dogs applies here, and is, if anything, more important given a cat's smaller body size. Xylitol, sometimes labeled as birch sugar, is an artificial sweetener used in some sugar-free and diet dairy products that is extremely toxic and can cause rapid, severe, life-threatening drops in blood sugar and liver failure in both dogs and cats, with cats actually requiring a much smaller relative amount to be affected given their size. Only ever use 100% plain dairy products with zero added sweeteners of any kind for this purpose. The final piece of the long-term puzzle is skin barrier support through diet, because every few weeks your cat's body is producing an entirely new outer layer of skin, and that skin is built largely from fats. If your cat is eating dry food that has been sitting open for an extended period, the beneficial fats in that food oxidize and degrade, providing your cat's skin with poor quality raw material to work with. Omega-3 fatty acids are one of the most well-supported nutritional interventions for skin barrier health and itch reduction in cats specifically, with real veterinary research behind their use for allergic and dry, flaky skin conditions. A small amount of plain canned sardines packed in water, with no added salt, about 1/4 of a small sardine for an average cat, mixed into their food once or twice a week, provides a genuinely meaningful dose of omega-3s. If your cat will not eat fish, a small amount of plain, unseasoned cooked egg, about a tablespoon, 2 to 3 times a week, is a reasonable alternative protein and fat source, though it does not provide the same omega-3 profile specifically. Bone broth is another option many owners ask me about, and I wanted to give you a clear warning here as well. Never use a store-bought bone broth from the soup aisle for your cat. These products are almost always seasoned with onion or garlic powder for human flavor, both of which, as I explained earlier, are genuinely toxic to cats. If you want to offer bone broth, it must be homemade, using only plain chicken or beef bones simmered in water, with absolutely no seasoning, no onion, no garlic, and no salt added at any point. I know that is a significant amount of information, and I can imagine some of you feeling a bit overwhelmed thinking about how to fit coconut oil, oatmeal, dilute vinegar, brewer's yeast, pumpkin seeds, kefir, and sardines into your cat's routine all at once. Please do not try to do that. Cats have sensitive digestive systems, and introducing several new things into their food simultaneously is one of the most common reasons a home protocol like this causes more problems than it solves. Here is the simple version. Pick one skin and coat support item, sardines one day, an egg another day. Pick one gut support item, a very small amount of plain yogurt or kefir, just a couple of times a week, watching closely the first time. And if your cat does not have an active parasite problem, a tiny amount of brewer's yeast on a few of those same days for general repellent support. That is genuinely the entire system. Small, rotating additions, a few times a week, watched closely, not a daily kitchen sink of every ingredient at once. I want to close with the situations where none of what I have described today is the right next step, and you need to see your veterinarian instead of trying any of this first. If your cat has open, bleeding, or significantly infected-looking sores. If there is hair loss in patches with visible skin changes underneath. If the itching is severe enough that your cat is losing sleep, losing weight, or seems genuinely distressed rather than mildly uncomfortable. If you see an active flea infestation, meaning you can actually see fleas or flea dirt on the skin. If there is any ear discharge, swelling, or pain on touch. And if any of the home approaches I have described today have not produced any improvement within a week of consistent use. Cats hide pain and discomfort exceptionally well, which means by the time symptoms are obvious, they have often been building for some time. And a proper veterinary exam, sometimes including allergy testing or a diet trial under veterinary supervision, may be needed to find the actual root cause in a chronic or severe case. Dealing with a chronically itchy, uncomfortable cat is genuinely one of the hardest parts of being a pet parent, because you can see they are suffering and you cannot ask them what is wrong. By looking into gentle, evidence-informed alternatives alongside what your veterinarian recommends, rather than instead of it, you are doing exactly what a thoughtful, attentive pet parent does. Tell me in the comments, is your cat dealing with itchy skin, fleas, or both? And which of these ingredients are you going to try first? I read every single comment, and I love seeing this community help each other troubleshoot specific situations. Give your cat a gentle scratch behind the ears tonight, and I will see you in the next video.